going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Table Talks, a show where we discuss random shit in the horror genre. My name is Riley. That is Nick. Today, after a big request, we'll be talking about Scream, the video game. Is it really possible? Before we do that, let's talk about a pinned comment, okay? As always, a movie playing off-screen right now, another sequel, of course, in the horror genre. I'm not going to tell you what decade, but all I'm going to say is thank you to our troops. With that, let's dive right into this. Before we go into our opinions about Scream, the video game, is it really possible? Let's go to our old boy, the old boy Jimmy Champagne. If you haven't seen Jimmy in the past, he covers a lot of horror news. We love him. We will continue to collab with him in the future, especially with videos like this. But I had him send in an idea what he thinks would be great for a Scream game, and his ideas are usually way different than ours and very unique and creative. And there's no exception to this one. So before we get into our ideas, take a look at Jimmy's video.
So when you guys asked me to come up with a concept for a Scream game, my mind instantly went towards something that's more of a party game than a game like Friday the 13th or Dead by Daylight. It's not that I don't think Scream could lend itself well to an action survival horror type multiplayer game, but when I think of Scream and what that movie really is, my mind jumps to something like Clue or Town of Salem. Basically, you could have anywhere from 5 to 8 players, and one person would know that they are the killer, but no one else in the game would. And the people in the game would have to answer horror trivia questions right to make sure they survive till the end. I think that would work really well. Of course, since it's a video game and not a board game, everyone has the benefit of only seeing their own computer screen, so the killer would be able to pick how he kills each victim that wrongly answers a question. It could even be an FMV game where all the kills are pre-recorded because they could have archetypal characters that you pick when you start the game, and then you get a nice little movie that plays out that's kind of tailored to your actual game. You also have to consider that multiplayer horror games don't usually have the biggest budgets, and a lot of the ones we've been seeing have their own fair share of bugs, so making it a simpler party game that a lot of people can just buy into easily would make it a lot easier to make a game that isn't going to fall apart. And finally, I know mobile games are the devil, but I think like Jackbox Party Pack, this would lend itself well to mobile platforms, and of course the Nintendo Switch, which is basically my favorite game system besides my PC. So anyway, that's my idea for a good Scream game. Thanks for letting me include this clip in your video, guys, and I'll send it back to you.
Again, thank you to Jimmy Champagne for sending out that clip. Like I said, he always has way more unique ideas than we do. And when I first saw that clip, I was like, geez, like...
Didn't even think of that.
Didn't even remotely think of that, because like my idea, I always think on like a more cinematic level, and an RPG closer format. This is interesting though, to take that concept of really, it's not like action packed, but rather, do you know trivia? And I think that needs to make its way to the video game somehow. Is horror trivia has to play a factor. Yeah, I mean it really is interesting, and I love games like Jackbox Party Pack, where you can literally play with like your fans and subs and whatnot, and have a collaboration there along that. Listen, even if this isn't the only Scream game there is, I think this needs to be a thing. I think people actually need to listen to that idea from Jimmy. Yeah. And listen, like Scream 4 still plays with the mobile game rights. Like that's still out there. You could definitely make a game in this format.
Right. And it's, not, knocking the idea at all. It's simpler to do than the aspects we're going to talk about.
And Jimmy said that too. Like, well, the budget, you wouldn't need, these games are known for having a low budget.
Right. So that seems like an entirely possible game we could see in the next, 5 years.
Yeah, that should be a thing regardless. Even if there's two different, I think this should sit more in a mobile category, because I don't think I can imagine people picking it up on like PS4 and whatnot. Yeah, PC for sure. It should be on PC as well. It seems like a killer puzzle type of thing, where it fits well in these categories, but it's not so much for those main home console platforms. Right. I really want to see it though. I really do want to see a mobile game like that. Yeah, I'd play that all the time. Yeah. Challenge me in horror trivia, and if you fail, you die. And then even if there is like that hidden killer, like you were mentioning off camera a second ago about Mafia and how that works, you don't know who the bad person, who the bad guy is, until they get revealed somehow. Yeah, it really would be fun. I think it's a really interesting idea and should be explored. Yeah. Now let's go into our ideas for a Scream video game. Before we do that, these videos tend to be liked a lot, and we like to take your suggestions and your responses. This is all driven off of discussion, okay? So let us know your ideas, listen to our ideas, maybe bounce off of our ideas and expand further on them. that's what these are all about. It's a fun discussion with you guys that
Yeah.
are just as big as horror fans as we are.
Yeah.
Also, if you're making suggestions for future episodes, you guys seem to dig these, so we want to do more, but we want to go over your suggestions. I know Texting Some Massacres already being brought up a lot. Well, leave your suggestions in the comments. We will then go to sponsors with a poll and ask them what they would like to see with those suggestions. So not only should you make a suggestion, but you should also consider sponsoring too. Join button right there. All right, let's do this. Multiplayer. We're starting with multiplayer because, again, that seems to be the format that people want to see. It's 2018. It's almost 2019. Holy shit. It's just kind of what people want to see. But Scream, does it work in a run-and-gun type of format like that of Dead by Daylight or Friday the Game, where you are a killer, those are the survivors, go get them?
I don't know as much as, straight up Friday the 13th, Dead by Daylight, even last year. Like, I think Deceit, if you combine those type of aspects with Deceit, and sort of get something like that going, that's the only, or the best way I think it would have to be implemented.
Yeah, I've been thinking about this, like, really hard. Like, this would be so tricky. How do you... Because I don't think it should just be like, there's a killer, there's survivors, go kill them, try to escape. I don't think it should be in that format. I think those movies, there's so much going on in between kills,
right.
And it's not constant running, and there's psychological elements to it, and guessing who the killer is, and I think that needs to play a factor somehow. I mentioned with Jimmy's video that like horror trivia needs to make its way in there somehow. So how can a killer take horror trivia and move it into that multiplayer format?
Yeah, it'd be really interesting to figure out a way. I don't know. Maybe you have to answer your phone.
That's another thing. Cell phones need to play a factor too,
right?
Which makes you think hide or die. Maybe like the texting thing, but I think it needs to be a phone call. That's what it is. What he's known for,
right?
So honestly, and I don't think this should be a real big thing, but maybe a 1v1 type of format almost makes sense. You have a phone, he calls you, it starts playing out, but then you eliminate the guessing the killer, and you eliminate pointing fingers and lying to your friends and things like that. And that's just not as fun. 1v1 usually isn't as fun because you just kind of lose the whole exciting and running from the killer element.
Right. So yeah, like you said, part of Scream is not knowing who the killer is the entire time and tricking your friends. Like towards the end of Scream, when Randy and Stu were outside and they're both begging to come in.
Well, Stu's lying.
And then she just says, "Fuck you both. You got to make that decision. You can either shoot one or the other, let them both in. Don't let either of them in." Stuff like that. Like
that's kind of those kind of making those choices of a butterfly effect experience fits more in single player. How do you incorporate something like that into multiplayer?
It would just have to be somewhat like Deceit.
I literally think that's the only way.
Yeah.
I think Deceit makes more sense. Before we go into even further than that, because I know me and you both have an idea that surrounds that, let's talk about what the killer can do. What abilities do you have? Obviously, the ability to hide should be a thing.
Yes.
Ghostface has been known hiding in random closets in the house while making a call, or
bathrooms, stalls if there's a more public bathroom.
Yeah, he always tends to be hidden in plain sight. He's always around. That costume's around. Which brings up another question. Could you have the ability to take off the costume and be a regular survivor? Again, we'll go into more of that in a second. We have an idea surrounding that as well. I think you should be able to use your phone somehow. That should be an ability. Maybe that's to find a survivor, which we see in things like Scream 3 when he tries to call Sydney when he can't find her.
Yeah.
Maybe that plays a factor where you call them and that'll reveal them for a second. If you hear a phone, it's like Marco Polo, man.
Maybe it's kind of like Call of Duty where it shows up on the map. Like you could choose someone to call them completely across the map, and you can see their blip on the map, and then you can start heading that way.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah,
I think that'd be an interesting one. Depending on the size of the map, being able to morph somewhere, and I don't think it should be supernatural abilities. I don't think it should be that way, because this is out of all the things these franchises, this one's the most human, because it is just a human. It's just somebody that wants to kill people,
right?
And I don't know if you should be able to morph around the map and whatnot.
Maybe just for balancing purposes, maybe it should be somewhat like last year, what the last year survivors. Students have, where the little hatches where they can literally go to the other side of the map.
Yeah.
Maybe the killer can be the ones that can only utilize those type of things, just for balancing purposes. That makes it a little more human, unrealistic a little bit, but it's a game and there needs to be balance.
Yeah. I'm on the same page as you. I think to explain killer abilities, I think we need to talk about what our idea sort of is in terms of player base.
Yes.
What we're kind of thinking is a 5v1 format, but not just 5v1. Technically 4v2. Okay, you have a killer. Somebody's locked as killer. Everybody knows that that's a killer. Got it.
Yes.
All right. But also, there would be another killer who is mixed in with the survivors, who's not in costume. Maybe they can put on a costume. We can talk about that in a second.
Yeah.
But they are working with the killer, like in Deceit, where you could have a special voice chat just to talk to the other killer and a voice chat to talk to the survivors. And he's able to tell them where they are. Maybe he can help with, like, he has his own phone call to get rid of places, things like that. So there is another killer, and if let's say the survivors find out who that other killer is, who's hidden in their group, and they kill him or something like that, then that ends the game. That would be one of the ways to escape. It would make sense. But you don't want to just be shooting you don't want to be like Deceit and where you just can shoot whoever you want and vote them out. But it would come down to, it would be a lying format. Everyone would be lying to each other, and everyone would be on the edge of their seats, not sure who is the killer and who's not.
And then you have the real killer.
And then you have an actual person that's running that knife. And
that you also have to worry about.
Can kill you at any time. But then you have somebody that's working with that killer, too.
Right.
That maybe he can't kill you. Maybe that person that doesn't have the costume on can't kill you.
Maybe he can only kill you if he puts the costume on.
Yeah.
Kind of like Deceit, where you transform into the monster. Yeah. If they see you do it, then they're going to call you out on it. But if you do it in hiding, they'll never know.
Right. And then there's only like certain changing locations. So like we see Ghostface go into closets. We've seen things like that, and you can change, take off the costume and whatnot.
Yeah.
I think that'd be really interesting. I think that's a really. Not only does you still have the element of being chased down by a killer, but you also have that element of being humanized and blaming each other, and that suspense there too.
Right. Maybe that second killer person, maybe he can plant like phones or trackers, maybe like phones. And then if Ghostface, maybe one of his abilities is to call the nearest phones or something, and then a phone could. Maybe there's a perk or something where the survivor gets his phone masked, but since they have that extra phone, the other killer has that extra phone, it still goes off near them, something like that. Right. Maybe they can still set traps, something like that, stuff to sabotage the team. Because you're still a human. You can't just go around and start slashing unless maybe you put the costume on.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the movies are always known for having two killers.
Yeah.
I think implementing that into a game would be interesting, and I think that'd be a fun and creative way to do it.
Maybe at that rate, maybe 6v1, aka 5v2 works a little better. Also depends on the size of the maps that we're going. If we're going, like Stu's house.
Stu's house has to be a map, right?
Yeah, that almost seems like too small of a map, though.
Yeah, that's a big fucking house.
I mean, you'd have to.
I hear you. There's got to be other things to do, which is like if we go into escapes, how can you escape?
Yeah,
because that would also change how big the map can be. Because Stu's house could work if there's like a trivia element in there. Because the only way everyone always call the cops. That seems.
That would be one of the ways.
Yeah, that seems like one of the ways to escape. But I don't know how can you fight back? Can you take weapons in the house and fight back?
You should be able to fight back. Because, again, they are human. They fought back in the films.
Even calling, like, Dewey as a hero would be neat. Gale Weathers as a distraction. There's just so many things that could play a factor. Escaping just always... The easiest one to go to is, like, call the cops. Cops get there. You did it. Which would be on a time format.
Yeah.
Once they're called, you just survive a certain amount of time or something like that.
I don't know, because yes, if you kill the killer, they're technically human, so they shouldn't respawn. But in games like Deceit, you can die as a human and still come back, or die as the monster.
Yeah,
and then you die and you can still come back.
Yeah.
It's really tough to find a balance there, because obviously this is just brainstorming.
Yeah,
we would need to test it in action, but we're not game developers in it anyway.
Yeah, so that's not gonna work. Now, like, what about all the Scream movies end the same way? Killer is unmasked, and then shit goes down with the unmasked killer. I feel like how can you get to a point? What can you do to unmask that killer? What can you do to reveal those killers?
Maybe you would have to be the final one or final two, which is where a 6v1, 5v2 would work a little better, because then more people die and more people are alive at the end.
Yeah.
So yeah, maybe it's just down to the last two or down to the last one, and you can confront them, and maybe they reveal themselves. I don't know who the actual killer would reveal themselves as.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I mean, that's all just, random stuff. It could not even be someone from the franchise. It could just be like, oh my God, it's you the whole time. Oh my goodness, And then maybe that other killer then takes their mask off. You're like, oh, it was you the whole time. Yeah, but I don't know what other scenario it would take to do that. And then again, implementing the trivia. We're ambitious over here.
It's seriously, it is so tricky in a multiplayer format like that. It's either how true do you want to be to the films, because you could simply just do, there's a killer, run, survive. You could do it that simple. You could do that. I just think having that sense of lying to each other and manipulation is just part of the Scream films.
Yeah.
You never know who to trust. Mm-hmm. And everybody's a suspect. Like, that's the whole thing with these films. And I think that should make its way in there too to be more fun.
Yeah. One more thing with that, like if you have the map at I think environmental kills would have to also play a factor. Like maybe outside there's a news van or a van.
Yeah.
And if Ghostface is hiding in there and you go by the van, he can snatch you up and then you insta die. Kind of like how Hide or Die beta was.
Yeah,
now
it's
not
longer
that
an
way.
instant kill anymore.
But it'd be an instant kill where kind of like last year, it's an instant kill.
Yeah.
But then would you respawn? That's another thing that we don't know.
Yeah. Just for a couple more ideas for maps, I mean, obviously Woodsboro High School makes sense. You could even bring in the mansion, Milton's mansion from Scream 3, some parts of the college campus from Scream 2.
Like the library, maybe connected to the cafeteria.
Yeah. Stu's house definitely seems like the one that I think needs to be in there.
The video store. Maybe just the strip. Maybe just like the strip in town. You can go in the video store.
Yeah, like if you could have like the water fountain there too.
Yeah.
Like just iconic things that you've seen in the films. I think that would be a lot of fun. Dewey making his way as a hero would make sense. Having a Sydney character would make sense. There's a lot you could do.
Yeah.
And I think there's tremendous potential there. Multiplayer is just really tricky with this game, so let us know your ideas. Hopefully we gave you something to work off there. Run with it. You guys are smarter than we are. That being said, let's move on to single player. Let's talk about how this could work. This makes more sense. We talked about it forever. We've mentioned it like 1,000 fucking times on streams. Is that a Telltale style or Until Dawn style Scream game is easy. I'm always gonna bring up these games usually with horror franchises because the format's there. It would work, man.
Yeah, we've said from the start, 2 years ago, year and a half ago, like Scream in a Telltale game story format would just be perfect. It'd be easier than the complex shit we just tried to explain. You have your main story. You can kind of breach off and get the butterfly effect, kind of like Until Dawn does. But you still get that main story, and you follow along. And do you really fail? I don't know if there's any way to fail.
If you start with a group of people, like Until Dawn did, you start with a group of people, and you're following a different character story, which fits Scream very well, but also makes it tricky in terms of, because Until Dawn did it great. There was a killer who you had to guess.
Yeah.
And the reveal was satisfying, and that's very much possible in this Scream setting. You're creating it has to be a movie inside of a video game.
Right. You get to make choices like, who are you going to kill, but at the end of the day, you still have the main two killers, which would probably, if we're going straight from the story, would be Billy and Stu.
Yeah. But again, you just create a whole new set of characters.
Or if it's a whole new set of characters, you could either have them change, and no matter what, it's the last two that are alive, or the killers, no matter who you choose, because obviously, if you pick the two killers right off the bat, then there's no more game.
Yeah.
So the last two people that you choose are the killer, and it changes with every person that plays, every person that gets killed off in some way.
Yeah, like Until Dawn did it right. Like Until Dawn is that perfect format there that could fit Scream.
Yeah.
I would like because the thing, like we just said, it could just be new original characters, but seeing Sydney, Gale, and Dewey would kind of be the good catch about it. So do you just put Sydney, Gale, and Dewey in a different story, like a Scream 5 type story?
Yeah.
But listen, it's a video game, so ages don't matter. We don't have to be 10 years in the future. This could take place between 3 and 4. And there's a whole, like, you could do something like that. It doesn't have to be in that continuity element. Like, it doesn't have to fit in the franchise.
Randy could be alive.
Oh my God!
No, that'd be perfect if Randy was alive. You know, maybe this takes place in between 1 and 2.
Yeah, what is it a big deal to throw out Scream 2 through 4? Not to be a dick, but like, because I love those movies.
Yeah.
But like, just to tell another story. Back to the Future game, Telltale, tells a different story, but with the same characters you know and love. And I think that it would be beautiful.
Right. This game is not canon.
Yeah.
It's not going to be like this game is Scream 5. No.
Yeah.
It's a game. It's a one-off or a separate story. So yeah, have it take place in between 1 and 2 because you gotta have Randy in there.
Yeah.
You gotta.
Yeah.
Randy, Sydney, Dewey, and Gale. Or maybe, Dewey and Gale.
Yeah. Of course, only a year between 1 and 2, but like literally just kind of ignored.
Yeah. Yeah. And then have them go. You could add a few more characters either from 2 or just make some new friends. You know, it's that easy. It's a game.
Listen, like, Kevin Williamson had a plan for Scream 3 that never got to be seen because they didn't use his script. Like, just even that. Imagine something like that, which would still Randy would still be dead, but like Sydney, Gale, and Dewey, the 3 you need, that trio that's still around now. Like, I think that is what people want to see, and to bring that into that sort of Until Dawn type of element would be cool. Play it out like a movie, bring in horror trivia, questions you can answer, and all of it. Let it play out as a butterfly effect. Let the story change every time too. Which is one of the reasons I wanted to bring up. I have this written down as those. Remember those stupid ass mobile games like the Kardashian apps where you pick everything. You could like Scream TV series actually has one where a killer plays out. Like I played through the whole stupid fucking thing. Don't know why. That shit kind of works, and it's kind of like Telltale, just way lamer. So that format would probably catch on. It just can't be as cheesy as those mobile games.
Yeah, like one of those high school stories choices type apps. Yeah.
It would actually kind of work for Scream.
Yeah, and that'd be easy. That'd be really easy. 99 cents, that'd pay, that help would fund, a good game.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I just think it'd be interesting. Again, that's where I see Scream going. I think it'd be cool to see Kevin Williamson's Scream play out. And we also know that Kevin Williamson has Scream 5 and 6 written. If that's really something you want to dive into, maybe that's a possibility too. But of course, there's still some hope for people that films will happen. So it depends how much you want to touch there and how much you want to touch in terms of Wes Craven's legacy. All that plays a factor in there. So yeah, Scream's interesting in terms of Wes Craven because unlike Nightmare on Elm Street, he directed all these films. All of those are his babies and not just 2 of them from Nightmare on Elm Street. So it's a different thing to mess with, but there's definitely potential there. And Scream, that 90s nostalgia, especially like our generation, will buy right into that. They will, which is one of the things that Last Year the Nightmare is feeding off of tremendously. Yes. Which honestly, God, I would be okay with the Ghostface DLC in Last Year the Nightmare.
Right. If we had to pick one gun to our head, Ghostface. I don't think they would ever go the licensed killer route for Last Year the Nightmare, but I don't know, man. I think Ghostface would work pretty well. I feel like he, maybe he just end up being a skin for the Strangler or something like that.
He could be his own. I think he would, like, it'd be like Slasher but with a knife. It wouldn't.
Yeah, it'd be interesting, but I personally don't think Last Year will go that route. But if they do, wouldn't mind. Wouldn't be the end of the world.
I think if you're gonna try to fit Ghostface into one of these horror games, Last Year's want to do it with. It takes place in '96 for fuck's sake. I mean, like it's right there in a high school. I mean, it kind of just, if he's going to be somewhere, that's a game he should go. But, again, I would prefer to see him in his own game, his own story. But let us know what you guys think. Again, all this Driven Out Discuss, and leave your suggestions in the comments below as well for future episodes of these Table Talk videos. is it really possible to be a video game? Again, sponsors, we will send you guys in a community tab for sponsors only, some sort of poll to vote on the next episode. But with that, that's a wrap today's video. If you enjoyed, make sure you drop a like and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this one. And with that, as always, thank you guys so much for watching. Editor, roll that out.